Hi guys, Tugger here with a new video, and this video will be my Enhancement PvP guide video for Season 1 of Dragonflight. I have been enjoying Shamans very much. I would say that it is my second most played character behind my Warrior. I think my third is really between my Destruction Warlock and actually my BM Hunter. And then I think I'm playing a bit of Disc Priest because of the series, although I do hate myself for playing it since I don't want to play a healer in Dragonflight as I did in Shadowlands. I want to play full DPS, but that's another discussion for another day. I play a lot more Elemental Shaman compared to Enhancement Shaman. That's based because of the comps that I'm actually playing with my friends, but Enhancement Shaman is actually very strong. It is very surprising how it actually deals the damage that it can deal. It has some interesting builds. I'm going to cover one main build that I will call the meta build for Enhancement Shaman. There's a few variations that you can actually play with, depending on the stats that you're going for. For me, I'm going for haste. I'm going to discuss right away about the stats, but I'm going to first and foremost talk about what is a Enhancement Shaman. An Enhancement Shaman is a hybrid class that actually can deal a lot of damage while he is actually pressuring, while he has the Feral Spirits up, while he has Dual Winds up, and you have of course the Wind Fury Totem that does give you a bit more damage. It is not that much, but it is always a bit, and you have a lot of ways to actually be disruptive for the enemy team. But it is a very squishy class. If you are not playing with the idea of doing a pre-wall or trying to heal yourself while you are actually bursting, you need to understand that Enhancement Shaman can flop over. But you have ways to actually be very surprising for the enemy team, especially in Soul Shuffle, where they are not really used to see a Enhancement Shaman, which is really fun because people don't know what you're actually doing and you're doing a lot of damage. It is also one of the most fun classes to play IMO, and you have also a lot more builds to play. You have also multiple stats you can go for to have a different feel of the class, and that's what I like. The thing that I would not like about Enhancement Shaman is probably the capacities of doing 2v2. I think you will have to pair yourself with DPS if you really want to be successful. For myself, I prefer to play with a healer in general, and that's why Enhancement Shaman in 2s is not really my go-to spec with Shamans. I'm kind of torn between Restoration Shaman and Elemental Shaman for 2v2, but in 3v3 you have a few good comps. Now let's talk right away about the stats. The stats I'm going for is mostly haste, and then verse, of course it's together, basically it's PvP gear, so verse and haste, and then mastery, and then a bit of crit. But you need to understand that haste is probably the best stat for Enhancement Shaman if you want to feel smooth. If you're going for full mastery, which is a possibility because Elemental Blast does scale with mastery, Ice Strike does scale with mastery. Whenever your Storm Strike can do nature damage, it does also do more damage with mastery, but you will feel sluggish. You feel that GCDs are not going to go fast enough. You're going to be GCD starved whenever you have to do a heal. Yeah, you will not have the GCD for the clutch heal that you can do, or the clutch defensive that you can use, or the hex that you're going to cast. So that's why I prefer to play with haste. But I can understand why people would go for mastery, because they want to do some juicy one-shots, which is actually possible. As enchants go, I went for Drakebreaker's Mallet because I want the haste, but also I already bought my weapon as Elemental Shaman, so I don't have a lot of conquest to actually use for weapons. But I think if there is a vault and there is a weapon and I don't have a tier piece, then I will go for the mace. I will go for the actual Enhancement Shaman weapon. I'll go for the enchants like Frozen Devotion, and of course the cheaper one because it's just a 100 weapon. I don't want to spend too much. Wafting for it. It's basically a haste proc. It doesn't proc that much, and I don't know if it changes anything. I think the best ones are Frozen Devotion and Sophic Devotion. Frozen Devotion is quite nice as an as an Enhancement Shaman because your mastery does scale with the enchant, which is weird, but it does work because it is a like frost damage dealing enchant, so it does scale, so it will do 20% more damage. It is quite nice again. but I think Sophic Devotion is probably the safer bet if you don't want to break CC, for example. Again, I want to say speed enchants are probably the best, but you can also go for leech. I think there is many people are actually going away from speed and go for leech, especially for social, where surviving is probably the #1 priority for everyone. And I will test it out as well, but speed is quite important for elemental shamans, for example, to be able to just get away from things. As an enhancement shaman, maybe not, because you have a lot of ways to actually go to the enemy team, but we will see. So, well, let's also talk about tier sets, because I think now people have like a 2 set or a 4 set. I want to talk as well with the 2 set, the 4 set. I have another enchant. I have the Elemental Shaman enchant, but you can have the Frost enchant. I don't know how it's called, which basically gives you main stat and stamina. So you can go for that. But anyways, you have the 2 set for Enhancement Shaman, which is Storm Strike increases damage of your next direct damaging ability from fire, frost, or nature by 10% and causes it to generate 1 additional stack of Maelstrom weapon, which is actually pretty neat because you have talents to actually give you an extra one. So you have 2 with Storm Strike, and with this you will have 3 Maelstrom weapons. So it's again going to give you a lot of Maelstrom weapon buffs, which can give you more healing or more damage depending on what you want to use. And consuming Maelstrom weapon stacks increases your haste by 1% per stack for 4 seconds. Now, I don't know how it works. I don't know if it's going to be refreshing. If it's refreshing, it's going to be very strong. If it has like multiplier, like it's 10% per, I would say if you consume 10, you will have 10% haste for 4 seconds, but does it become 20% if you can do that? Or if you, that's a lot of testing, I don't know, but I will do a video once we have the 4 set. But it's a very strong 4 set, you should go for it as enhancement, but also if you're playing Elemental Shaman on the side, or if your main is Elemental Shaman, you should for sure go for the 4 set. Now let's talk about the most important thing. Again, in the comments below you will see the loadout code for my build, and I will do some variation here and there, but to be honest, the meta build is probably the most important for this video, especially with the stats I'm going for, and then we can proceed. Again, timestamps here below if you want to skip over some things. I would appreciate if you watch the whole video though. Anyways, so this is my talent tree that I'm going for mostly solo shuffle, but I do use it also in 3s and in 2s if I play 2s, although I'm not really playing a lot of 2s with Enhancement Shaman. I do not play a lot of 2s in general anyways. I'm going to go over the class tree first and then the spec tree, but I'm going to do a bit faster because again, nothing is really new there. So we have Lava Burst. We do take Lava Burst purely because we are going for Elemental Blast. Big shocker. You want to have 2 stacks because again, if you can burst and you have a lot of luck with your Maelstrom, you can do some big Elemental Blast at all times. Especially it also buffs you, so pretty much whenever you're doing that you get like a mini buff and you're going to be golden. Again, Earth Elemental, very good. At the start of the match I do use it, and we have Brimming with Life, which gives you 8% in Arena of extra health because you cannot reincarnate, so it's always off cooldown. You always have 8%, plus at 15% you will have around 420k, and if you have a priest with you, you will have 440k depending on your gear you have. It's actually very neat. People just do not go for you whenever they see the HP. Sometimes they do, but you have a lot of ways to actually get out of the problems, I would say, if they are melee especially. Earth Shield, very good. Elemental Orbit, very good. We have Wind Shear, we have Fire and Ice, again, Tremor Totem, very important because there is a lot of Warlocks, a lot of Priests, especially a lot of Shadow Priests. Even DHs can now fear. If the Preservation Evoker or Devastation Evoker sleeps your healer, you can just do Tremor Totem and you're good. It's like probably the best challenge you can pick at the moment with the prevalence of DHs, Shadow Priests, Preservation Evokers, Warlocks. Really, there is no real moment where you're going to hop off the Tremor Totem. It's just a big value point, and also it's only 1 point to get the Earth Grab totem. If you went for capacitated totem, you will have to spend 2 points to go there. I do not take capacitated totem because it does DR for every stun, next stuns that they are going to get. So a 3-second stun AoE, although it's very useful sometimes, and it gets reduced by the CC reduction from the boots, for example, for a few classes, but also with the PvP trinket set, so it will not be 3 seconds, and also it will DR the other stuns, which I do not like, so I prefer to not take it, so I don't risk to DR my teammates. Also myself, because I do like Lightning Lasso. We go for Greater Purge. The reason is you want to purge with as little GCDs as possible, and many important buffs that you want to purge, like for example Bop, or for example the Frost, the Ice Barrier, or Prismatic Barrier from the mages, or Blazing Barrier, whatever. You just need to do one Greater Purge and it's gone. It's very nice. And anyways, spending 3 GCDs to purge, which is still good. It will spend around 4.5 seconds and 15k mana. The problem is you don't have the time to do that, like spam purging. It's not like Classic, where to be honest the games are a bit more slower. Here, just 1 GCD is already enough to just have a lot of value, and then you have a 12-second CD. It becomes then like a train of thought, like every time a greater purge is up, just use it. Of course, if you are like specific on what you want to purge, then you can just hold it back, of course. But what I do versus the rest of the druids, for example, every time I have my greater purge, I purge. It will be a 12-second CD, but that's good because again, you will have a sort of rotation and gives you self-discipline to actually use your greater purge. I do also use greater purge on my Elemental Shaman. Again, for the same reasons, it's so good, and people are like actually sleeping. People were actually like telling that Greater Purge was a bad talent, but I think in this current meta, in this fast-paced meta, Greater Purge is actually very helpful. We do take Clan Spirit, but to be honest, if you're not facing anyone that has a curse, you can take it out and go for Spirit Wolf or Thunderous Spouse. I do prefer Spirit Wolf. Flurry, again, very good, because again, it's basically your only melee talent that you can take for Enhancement Shaman. Nature's Fury, because you want to do more damage with your Elemental Blast, more crits, and it doesn't get affected by nature spells, which is good, but also just in general, you will do a lot more nature damage, so again, a no-brainer. And you also, the next talents, right? Spirit Walk, you want Winds of Valkyr, you want Bring with Life. You don't really want to go with the flow. You can go for that. Again, you also can go for Ghost of Wind. But I do like the removes all movement impairing effects, because you do get slowed a lot, and this can help you sometimes to land a kill. Searching Shields, big value. Lightning Shield does a lot of damage versus melees if they do go for you, and also it will trigger Maelstrom weapons, so you will never be starved. So you actually want to get the focus on you, so you can have more damage, more healing because of it. Also, it increases the healing from Earth Shield, so good value. Nature's Guardian, we do take it. Unluckily, if you're playing versus Shadow Priest and I would say another DPS, like let's say Elemental Shaman or a Warlock, I would hop out Nature's Guardian and go for Elemental Warding, because this can kill you with Mind Games and this will not kill you with Mind Games. So you have some choices there. Please do be flexible. If you're not flexible, you're going to die as an Enhancement Shaman. Some talents are very flexible. You do not want to have one cookie to build. Maybe for the spec. For the spec tree, we don't care. You have few builds, but really if you want to play with one specific build, it doesn't matter whenever you're doing that. But with the class tree, you do want to actually have everything. And to be able to actually switch, because everything is actually valuable. We do not take, let's say, the left side with Ancestral Guidance, Swirling Currents, Healing Stream Totem. To be honest, those are very high value talents. Problem is, you have to sacrifice a few talents for that. You might sacrifice, let's say, maybe Lightning Lasso and Thunderstorm, maybe, but I would do that, for example, if we're playing trees. and I know that I'm not really needing a lightning lasso because there is a lot of kicks and really a lot of TRs on stun, so I will not have a lot of value with it. But even then, I'm still liking lightning lasso. It does crazy damage, and my soul shuffle pops right away, so that's annoying. I'm going to not join rip. That's a rip, guys. That's a rip. I waited literally 23 minutes to do a solo shuffle, but I want to make a video. I prefer to make a video for you guys. So, let's see. What can you maybe take? To be honest, the choices are on the left side. The right side, I think Totemic Recall is kind of good. Maybe for Tremor Totem, but even then, you're using a lot of totems. Like you are reapplying Wind Fury Totem. So imagine you're doing Totemic Recall and you have like reapplied Wind Fury Totem. It will be useless, basically. So I will not do that. Poison Cleansing Totem, why not? The problem is, rogues, they do apply poisons very fast, so it doesn't really matter if you're going to dispel one every 1.5 seconds for 6 seconds. So basically only like 4 poisons, so I would not really care about that. Stone Skin Totem and Tranquil Air Totem, I guess you can do that, but again, it's preference. And again, for your Plains Traveler, it's always better than Astral Bulwark because you want to have faster CD. And I'm going to discuss about it in PvP talents, the good, cool interaction behind that. Now let's talk about the spec tree. We have the Stormstrike spec build, which is for me the most meta build you can play. I've did research for that, but also played a lot with my Enhancement Shaman in BGs, in arenas, and I feel that this spec is probably the best all-around spec you can play. Now, I'm going to go point per point why I take specific talents, and I'm going to then join the actual feeling towards the spec. So, basically, we're going for a physical spec. So we want to have everything that has physical properties, but also a lot of like elemental blast, like more, also a bit of mastery properties, because you cannot only do physical damage. That's not possible because there's a lot of choices you can make, and that those are only with like elements, I would say, like nature, frost, or fire, or elemental blast, which is elemental damage. But you want everything that has physical. So basically, Wind Fury Totem, it's a no-brainer. Forceful Winds, Unruly Winds, and Doom Winds are all your physical damaging abilities with Stormstrike. And then you have your elemental properties, which are Elemental Blast. You have your Crash Lightning, which gets your Stormstrike being improved the damage for, especially in cleaves. You can do Stormstrikes like crazy. It will do crazy damage with it, so you should always do Crash Lightning onto the pets, because it doesn't really matter on who you're doing it. The damage is not that high, but the Stormstrike that is following that is going to be very, very bursty, especially if you have your Feral Spirits. You have elemental weapons again because you don't want to do negligence towards the elemental side of the tree, because you cannot do only physical damage and you want to do as much damage as you can. We're going for Ice Strike because Ice Strike is probably the best value you can have as Enhancement Shaman to actually snare the enemy team, but also not spend too many points into the right side of the tree. If you went for Lava Lash, problem is you will have to use 3, so you have 3 talents, and then you have to go further into Hot Hand and into Ashen Catalyst. Those, it's 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7 points that you have to spend to have actual value into Lava Lash. Those points cannot be spent elsewhere. That's why I prefer the left side, where you have more points to spend for probably more value. And the Lava Lash build is great if you're going for mastery, but it's not that great if you're going for haste, because again, you want to have big Lava Lash, and for that you need to spend a lot more points, and to actually have a lot of value with your Lava Lash, you will need a lot of mastery. And yes, your Flame Shock ticking faster is interesting, because you can then have more Ashen Catalyst's Lava Lash damage. But again, it's alright. I think the build itself is alright. But again, the interesting parts about this build is you have Feral Lunge, you have Sundering, you have Refreshing Waters, you have, again, 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapons that are going to do more damage, and the good thing is at the bottom where you're going to have a lot of RNG kind of elements, but also a lot of damage kinds of elements, and I will talk about it right away. We have Deeply Rooted Elements, which is on the surface really bad. If you're doing it on dummy, sometimes they cannot just proc for 2 minutes, but in an actual solo shuffle match or an actual 3v3 match, and you're trying to survive, you're trying to actually do consistent damage, and whenever it pops, you're going to do so much damage that people are not going to be able to heal because it's on your consistent damage part. It's not like you're going to pop a CD and they're going to pop a CD for it. Now it's like consistent, you're going to do a Storm Strike, it's going to turn yourself into Ascendance, and then you're doing like a mini go, which is not going to be prevented by the enemy team because they already spent that damage reduction ability or that life-saving ability on something else. And what I do is actually put my badge with the Doom Winds like talent, like ability, and basically go for a burst with that. And we're going to do Feral Spirits, which is going to like give you 15% more damage on physical damaging abilities. And what you're going to do is also have Legacy of the Frost Witch, which whenever you're spending 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapons, you're going to have 25% increased damage on physical abilities. So what I try to do is fish that Legacy of the Frost Witch like buff, then do my Doom Winds, and you're going to have some crazy Storm Strike damage because of your Feral Spirits, because maybe Deeply Rooted Elements will proc, or for example your Elemental Assault will again give you more Maelstrom to actually spend those points in to get the Legacy of the Frost Witch. And you will always have some kind of like damaging rotation. We're going to have a lot of damage, and you're going to say to me, why aren't you taking Elemental Spirits? Like it's only 1 point, it is a keystone ability, basically capstone ability, and you really want to have that because it gives you fire, frost, and lightning damage, which gives you actually more damage on your Elemental Blast. You're correct. If you want to do 200k Elemental Blast, although it got nerfed, so it's not 200k anymore. That's great, but the problem is we're going for a physical damage dealing spec. So we do not get any value on fire, frost, or lightning increasing damage because you want to do Storm Strike, which is physical damage. You want to do Wind Fury, which is physical. You want to do Doom Winds, it is physical. Your Deeply Rooted Elements will turn you into a Ascendance, which wind attacks is not nature damage, it is physical damage. It seems like it, but it is not. It bypasses armor, but it is still physical. It is all of this combined and is going to be very strong with this build. If you want to do an elemental build where you're going to do a lot more damage on Elemental Blast, you're going for Primordial Wave maybe, even though it's nerfed, and you want to do like some lightning damage, or you want to do a Lava Lash build, all good, but you need to have mastery for that, and you need also Feral Elemental Spirits, which is going to give you up a bit of Storm Strike and Wind Fury damage. So you have to see and choose for yourself which you're going for and which you're going not. We're not going for Static Accumulation and Thorium's Evocation. This is quite nice, but again, you're not going to bank on Ascendance. But Ascendance proc is nice, but it could also just not proc for the whole match, which you want to not be dependent of. It's extra. It's 1 point you're going to spend into Deeply Rooted Elements, and whenever it's going to proc, it is actually going to be a win condition that you can have, but it's not the only win condition you can have as Enhancement Shaman. And Torrent's Invocation looks good at the surface, but you always spend those 5 Maelstrom weapons on Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning, which sometimes you want to heal, sometimes you want to do Elemental Blast, and that is not good because it's automatic. You don't want to do automatic damage, you want to actually think about the damage you're going to do. I think this is quite nice for PvE though, I think. But for PvP, I would still go for this. And now let's talk about the PvP talents, and that is actually your creme de la creme with Enhancement Shaman. You have a lot of PvP talents that are actually very nice. If you could have 6 PvP talents at once, you will do that. There is no dead PvP talent. Let's talk right away about the first one. It is Shamanism, which gives you Heroism on a 1 minute CD, which makes it usable in arenas, and you can use it on a friend, and it will do 20% haste, which is quite nice. The problem is it does cost a lot of mana, it is 10k and you only have 50k mana. So basically you're going to give up on healing. It does give you some big burst potential, and you can also combine it with a PI, and then you're going to do a lot of damage. The problem is you will need at least all the mana that you will have to spend on healing or elemental blast or whatever you can actually use. Although elemental blast doesn't cost a lot of mana, a lot of things are costing mana, like storm strike, ice strike, frost shock, crash lightning. Everything is costing mana, so you do not really want to spend 10k just for a bloodlust for 10 seconds, which is good, but it is also just a bit greedy. Thunder charge, again, very nice. It does recover your cities faster. There is a bit of play there if you are playing like versus a comp that is not scary for you, like let's say a even then, if for caster cleaves, I want grounding totem, I want static field totem, and right, the lightning is maybe the only one that you can swap off. That you could go for thunder charge, but it is not really the most important PvP talent for me. Ethereal form is maybe the best PvP talent you can play in social for versus physical damage dealers. If you're playing versus I would say outlaw rogues, fury warriors, arms warrior, I would even say sometimes assassination rogues, marksmanship hunters that are doing double tap to try to kill you, ethereal form is there to actually save you. How many times did I do ethereal form whenever I was in Spear of Bastion, which is not physical damage, by the way, it is not arcane anymore, so if you're doing that, you're going to be safe. And people are just going to ham on you. They would think, well, how come it is fucking immune, man? Why is the Enhancement Shaman not dying? Well, because Ethereal form, and it's only a 45-second CD, so basically you can always use it whenever they are actually doing damage on you. The bad thing is you are slowed, you cannot do damage, and you cannot heal yourself. But for that in social fall, it doesn't really matter because you want to survive as long as possible. And if you know you are the kill target, I think ethereal form is probably the best pick you can do instead of, let's say, a grounding totem versus melees. It doesn't really matter versus melees. Please do not take ethereal form versus like retribution paladins. It doesn't work. You're going to die. Do not do that. Versus casters, please do not die. Please do not use that. You're going to die. Versus physical. So BM hunters, survival hunters, although survival hunters has a bit of fire damage, whatever. MM hunters, fury, arms, outlaw rogues, maybe assassination rogues. I'm still thinking, but there is not like for everything. But in Soul Shuffle, if you have like, let's say, a warrior versus a warrior and a hunter comp, and you know they're going for you, you can die in the opener. Ethereal form will just save you and also waste their CTs. So it's always a great talent. Please use it. Sky Fury Totem, I think it's too greedy for this meta. It's nice to do more damage, but it is too greedy. Counter-Strike Totem, if they have 2 brain cells, they do destroy it in one tap. The healer can just do that with like Purge of the Wicked, for example. Unleash Shield is quite nice too, but in Enhancement Shaman, you don't really need to push them away. You have Thunderstorm for that, and you're not really kiting anything, right? You tried, if you can kite it, you can still do it with Static Field Totem. Spectral Recovery, do not play that. Grounding Totem versus casters, very good. It makes you very annoying because you have Wind Shear on the 12-second CD, Grounding Totem, you have Sundering, you have Lightning Lasso. Basically, you can make a caster not play. And especially a Shadow Priest, where they don't have a kick, they have a silence. If they use the silence on you, it's pretty much a win, right? So, Lightning Lasso on a caster is a great deal. Swelling Waves, it is quite nice because you do use healing surge a lot on yourself. It's not like Elemental Shaman where you're not doing a lot of healing surges. As an Enhancement Shaman, doing healing surges is basically your defensives. It's not going to heal for a lot, again, because it's dampening, and they nerfed it considerably multiple times in these last expansions. But it is still a great PvP talent, and you can play it depending on the comps you're facing. Seasoned Winds, I play that versus Destruction Warlock. I play Grounding Totem plus Seasoned Winds. I always kick Chaos Bolt, so basically it will give me a 12-second, 15% damage reduction on every school, because Chaos Bolt is every school basically. So you're going to be golden again, very strong, very reliable too, because it's a damage reduction on your shear. You can, if you miss your shear, that's all right. It's a 12. It will be up in 12 seconds. You can do that again, right? And you have grounding totem, right? If you're missing your shear and he faked it and he does a chaos bolt, you have grounding totem to save you, or even sundering, or lightning lasso, or whatever you can actually use to be annoying, right? Tidebringer, I do not play that. I don't know if chain healing is worth to even get a keybind for it. I might maybe test it one day, but I don't know. I don't think it's good. I think the healing itself is bad, and I also don't spec into it. Traveling Storms, quite nice for Eye of the Storm, for example. If you're playing RBGs, it can be fun. I'm not thinking it's very interesting at all times, but it can help you. It can help you. Ride the Lightning is your damaging PvP talent. Basically, you're going to do a lot of passive damage because of it, and it's around 5% of your damage, so it's still a good DPS increase. And it does feel whenever you're going for like burst moments that Ride the Lightning can give you some good damage. Static Field Totem, too good. Too good. And even versus melees, I still play with Static Field Totem because I do kite a lot as a Enhancement Shaman. Sometimes I want to stick, and then I see, look, my damage is not really great at the moment because my Feral Spears are on CD for some reason, because again, I didn't use a lot of Maelstrom weapons, for example, or they are bursting. I try to survive. Static Field Totem, Ghost Wolf, I run away, run around the pillars, for example. It's very strong, especially also versus casters, because they have difficulties to destroy it for some reason. Sometimes they just forget to destroy it, and it's actually very strong as well. I want to talk briefly again about the spec tree. Legacy of the Frost Witch and Elemental Assault is actually very strong, but Witch Doctor's Ancestry is actually very, I would say, underrated. You will always have Feral Spirits, always. If you're actually bursting, you have uptime, you're going to use Maelstrom weapons, it's pretty much Feral Spirits are 80% or 90% uptime in the whole match, which is massive because it does a lot of damage as well, but also your Storm Strike will do like basically always more damage. So I wanted to just say that before I start with the compositions. So in 2v2, you want to play basically with a DPS. That's my take on Enhancement Shaman. With a healer, the problem is you don't have a MS effect, so games will be very long and also very tedious. People will MS you, you will not be able to MS the other people, which makes it very difficult to actually like kill someone or play aggressively. You will always have the back foot. So if you play with a double DPS, I would suggest to play with a Fury Warrior because they can heal themselves, and they have a Slaughterhouse, which is not that good anymore, but it is still decent. Or you can play with a Demon Hunter. They can survive long enough to actually do damage. Or you can play with, let's say, a Arms Warrior. What you also could do is play with a caster, which basically a Shadow Priest, and they have Psyfiend. You can do some pretty nasty setups and have a lot of damage, but it really depends on situations again. My preference is either with a warrior or with a Retribution Paladin sometimes, because again, Retribution Paladin, if you're healing like both of you, you're going to survive a long time, and then you can really play for dampening. But my bet is either with a warrior or a Shadow Priest and maybe a Retribution Paladin. So in threes, you want to play turbo. Basically, you're playing with a warrior. That's your best comp. That's like, there is no reason to not actually watch something else. But if you want to try something else, you can play the next turbo that you had, and it is with a DK. So DK with an Enhancement Shaman is actually pretty neat as well. You can play with Frost or with an Unholy DK. It works as well. You will lack the MS effect, but the unrelenting damage that you can actually produce with a DK is a lot higher than, let's say, with a Warrior. So there is a bit of that. Also, you will be a caster killer. So if you want to have fun and kill casters, you play with an Unholy DK, and you as an Enhancement Shaman, you will have a lot of fun with that as well. There is also a composition that is quite ancient because it was like that before. Beast Cleave, which is Enhancement Shaman with a BM Hunter, for example, or Survivor Hunter. You can also make it work with that. And you basically have like beasts, like feral spirits and pets, to actually do damage. And you are here to actually hex, and the other hunter is actually there for trapping. So you can hex the off DPS, you can trap the healer, and basically 1v3 the actual DPS. Or the kill target at least. You will be unrelenting, but again, it's not the best comp. You can also play with a caster, but it's very, very hard for you to actually survive. You will be always the target. And again, I think it's better if you play with a caster that you play the elemental build, where you can also be a bit more far away from the enemies and actually do damage from your elemental blast, lightning bolts, and let's say your short ghost that you can actually produce. But those are the comps. In solo shuffle, your playstyle is playing like a dog, basically. You're going to try to go in, do all the damage, and then play like a little, you know what, right? But it works. It works. People are so focused on tunneling down Enhancement Shaman that they do forget that you actually can survive a few damage. You can be very annoying with your root, because you have Earth Grab, you can root to healer, try to pillar hump, and they will like line their healers, and then you can do static field totem to keep them with you, and you have grounding totem to like again absorb a cast with your grounding totem, so it's quite nice. And you have sick damage. Again, if you're deep rooted ascendance procs, you can do some immense damage where you're going to kill someone. You have lightning lasso, and then you can pillar hump with it. Again, you have a lot of ways to survive, but you need to play it again intelligently. You don't want to always go, and then you will be dying because you forgot to heal yourself, or you forgot to actually dodge damage by just running away. Sometimes running away can make you dodge damage that you could have not prevented with another class, let's say. With Enhancement Shaman, you can prevent a lot of damage. And also, like I said, please watch your tree, look at what you can do, and adapt. If you're playing versus casters, having grounding totem is basically like, it's normal. You have to do that. If you're playing versus melees, grounding totem, you have some value with the healer, but you don't need that. You want to have other things to actually make you survive. If you play versus an MM hunter with a warrior, do not like stay with your Astra shift, because that's not enough. You cannot Astra shift whenever you're stunned. But if you're coming from a stun, you're doing ethereal form, they cannot kill you. They will not kill you in a 4-second stun, but they might kill you after it. So that's why ethereal form is very, very strong, because you can just immune damage, basically, that is maybe not preventable for a few classes. Very strong. Please do not forget to heal yourself. Please use Elemental Blast, not only for the damage, but also for boosting yourself. I think if you're doing your burst, you should have Elemental Blast ready, because it will just give you more mastery, more haste, or more crit. And again, you can have 2 Elemental Blasts and it can stack. So just do that. It's very, very good. Do not forget to use Feral Spirits. Do not be greedy with your CDs. You will have to pre-wall all the things. Astro Shift is a 12-second wall, which is on a 1.5 minute CD. You have a trinket every 2 minutes. Yes, your second trinket will be on CD whenever you can use Astral Shift, but not every rogue is going to start with a kidney shot to actually kill you. They can also just silence you, and that's pretty much the moment where you have to pop something, and you will have to pop Astral Shift. Do not be greedy on your Greater Purge. It is a 12-second CD, so you have to use it. If you're never using Greater Purge, and you're only using it sometimes, then you're losing a lot of value on that CD. It's a 1 CD, 12-second CD, 2 magic effects dispel. If you're not using it like every 12 seconds, you are actually misplaying it. So you have to really use it on CD. It's too strong to not do that. Wind Fury Totem, always have it like on the ground, especially if you're playing with a physical, like a warrior, for example, or a retribution paladin. Sometimes with Zeal is also quite nice, DKs and such. You want to have the Wind Fury Totem because it helps also other people to do more damage. Earth Elemental at the start of the match. use your badge with Doomwinds, but you can also use your badge outside of Doomwinds, because if you have deeply rooted elements up and you have the proc, use your badge and you can do more damage with it. Ice Strike snares the enemy and does more damage on Frost Shock. It is 100% more damage on Frost Shock. So basically, if you crit, it will be like a 20k, 25k Frost Shock. So it's quite nice as well. Do not forget to Clan Spirit your healer. If your healer is Hex or whatever, use that. If your healer is Sleep, please use your Tremor Totem. Again, Tremor Totem is very, very strong as Enhancement Shaman, so you should abuse it. So those are pretty much my tips. Now I want to talk about the rotation. To be honest, the rotation of a actual melee is not very easy to discuss. But again, because everything is depending on the procs. If you have a lot of Storm Strike procs from the talent, which is Storm Blast, Storm's Wrath, with the resets on the actual Storm Strikes with your Mastery, that's very good, right? If you can do like resets with Storm Flurry and just in general have more resets, that will make you win games. So if you want to basically start the match, don't forget your Flame Tongue and your Wind Fury Totem, and you're going to just start the match with, of course, a bit of damage. And whenever you see you have enough Maelstrom, you can have a weak aura like me. I'm going to again, it's very simple. You type on Google Maelstrom weapon weak aura and you will have that, and put it somewhere where you can see, so you don't need to watch the upper top of the screen to actually see how many Maelstrom you have. Or the I think this like middle thing is for me not very visible for me while I'm like doing the DPS. So I prefer to have the weak aura. I have 10, and that's a moment where I'm going to burst. So I'm going to Elemental Blast into Doom Winds, and I'm going to burst with my actual rotation, which is basically Storm Strike whenever you can, Ice Strike whenever you can, and Greater Purge whenever you can. That's actually your burst, and you're going to do a lot of damage. Don't forget your Feral Spirits whenever you're bursting. I did forget it for this video, of course. And try to Sundering every time they're trying to cast. Try to Elemental Blast whenever you can. I don't know why my Feral Spirits are gone, but they are gone. So, yeah, I mean, it's very hard to actually discuss about the actual rotation. But you see that your Elemental Blast will never do like 200k like one hits. That's not going to happen because you're not really playing with Mastery, and you're also not playing with the Feral Spirits giving you more damage on the actual Elemental Blast. What you want to do is sometimes Lightning Lasso and then go behind a pillar. It gives you more time. Always try to have Flame Shock up. It's not a lot of damage, but it does add up. You have your Feral Spirits up again, and then you can burst again with your Elemental Blasts and your Storm Strikes. Then you're going to do Sundering, another Elemental Blast which crits, and then you're going to always try to use all your GCDs whenever you can. Basically, your Storm Strike is your big damaging ability. Whenever you have used that and you don't have a proc, you go for Ice Strike, you go for a Crash Lightning, and then you will get a Storm Strike again. You will do more damage with it. Elemental Blast whenever you have like a 10 stack or a 5 stack, depending on the situations, of course. And whenever you can burst, be sure to use your CDs. That's like the most important thing, right? If you want to have more Maelstrom, again, Lightning Shield is so good. And whenever they are actually hitting you, you will have more Maelstrom, which means you will have more Feral Spirits. And whenever you have your Elemental Blast up and you used it, you can just go for another burst and basically do a lot of insane damage. And you will see that my screen is full with numbers, but it means that I'm actually doing a lot of damage with Wind Fury in general. And whenever I get like a 10 stack, I can do a lot of damage with my Elemental Blast. I go back to behind, and then I'm going for a Hex on the healer, for example. I cannot Hex the dummy, of course, and you will do a lot of damage, and I'm bugged for some reason. So those are pretty much my tips. If you want to see my macros, basically, I have a macro for target is party 1, that's the healer, generally, Clan Spirit. I have also a macro where I use Clan Spirit, here is Purified, because I did play, how it's called, a Resto Shaman for a bit. So you put it on your boss, and you will have like your Clan Spirit on help, and Greater Purge on harm. Oops, please please. No, it got removed. I want to cry. Anyways, basically this. I'm gonna put it on Greater Purge. I want to cry every time. Anyways, so basically Cleanse Spirit on help. On harm, you have Greater Purge, so you have only one button to press, depending on who you're targeting. If you're targeting a healer or an ally, you will have Cleanse Spirit. If you're targeting an enemy, you will have Greater Purge, so it's quite nice. Your Doom Winds, again, you will have your badge on the second row with use, or use 14 or whatever you can use for macros, right? And Doom Winds together does a lot of damage because your Wind Fury will just add up with it. You can also have a party 1 healing surge, depending on who you want to heal, and you can have a lot more macros if you really desire, but those are my macros that I use for healing my allies, but also damaging with my Doom Winds, for example. So those are my actual like builds, macros, guide, I would say, for Enhancement Shaman. Please let me know if you have like any question regarding Enhancement Shaman. I'll be here to actually comment back. I'll try to always comment back for everyone. Of course, there are sometimes a bit of trolls, but it is what it is. But I'm also commenting them, so whatever. I give ammunitions to everyone. So thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. And if you want to have fun, please play Shaman. Shaman is actually in a great state for Enhancement and for Elemental Shaman. People think that Enhancement is really C tier in Soul Shuffle, but for me, so it is a class that has a lot to offer. I just think Elemental Shaman is just more popular, but Enhancement Shaman is actually very strong. Do not forget about that. And yeah, I think it's a great time to play Dragonflight. So if you don't play Dragonflight and you are like lurking for guides and such, just jump in, you will have a lot of fun. Soul Shuffle will be fixed in a few days, hopefully whenever the holidays are over. And if you're watching in the future and it is actually over, then it's good for us, and we'll have a lot of games in the future on this channel. Again, thank you for watching, have a great day, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and we will catch each other for a next video, probably very soon. Bye.
Every single day, I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range, cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch.